reported enough about now is called Project 2025, spearheaded by Heritage Foundation, involving 75 other of the real heavy hitters across the spectrum, many of which right-wing groups wouldn't normally work together to have a plan in place for that day one dictatorship of Trump. It's 900 pages, agency by agency. They're recruiting, lawyers and so on. And it includes the kind of institutionalization of January 6th. Not least of which, by the way, of course, is Trump saying, if I get in, I'm going to pardon these guys and I'm going to apologize to them.
And I mean full pardons with an apology to many, an apology.
So I think it's still very real, but the way that it does seem in the past, and I think is relevant, is the mistake we can make is to think, well, that was a terrible day that we must never let happen again. Yes, correct. On the other hand, we're already in scarier territory than January 6th. We need to deal with the threats ahead as well as behind. I don't want to sound like Mike Johnson or something. Let's move ahead. Let's move on. This is not a crime scene. This is an ongoing crime.
I'm hearing you say two things that I feel are through lines in your book. One is the guy who goes to throw a punch and then pulls back, because it's the way you talk about guns throughout the book, right? Folks who are, have a pretend gun and a fake gun, or their fake guns lying around at home. I mean, this is all a move that is intended to train the receiver of the message almost more than it is to, actually commit violence. But it changes the footing. I think the other thing you're saying, because I was going to ask you about Project 2025, is that to the extent that January 6th still exists in the mind of some of the folks who are building toward the next thing, it's as not we put this behind us and do it better, but this is the map. This is actually what we want. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it has religious meaning. And so if we look at it theologically and you look at the first Trump campaigns in 2016, it's a kind of a prosperity gospel. We're going to be winning so much, you're going to want it to stop. By 2020, I describe it as a kind of a Gnostic gospel, and keeping with that ancient Christian conspiracy theory. Basically, it's a heresy. This idea of secret knowledge from within, the deep state, the conspiracies that Trump has been peddling that he himself I would argue, actually starts to believe himself. January 6th marks theologically a really frightening escalation into an age of martyrs. And Trump had been trying to build up martyrs. You'd see at his rallies, he'd recite names of people killed by undocumented people. And it should be noted, that's a community that has lower rates of crime than citizens. But yes, of course, there's some criminals amongst them. And a lot of the crowd would know the names, but they needed the martyrdom first of January 6th, a white woman killed for the cause, and then the martyrdom of all the January 6th singers, which probably your listeners don't realize had a hit single with Trump that would play at his rallies of singing from prison.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early
Now you have this age of